Yeah, so Nikon is gonna buy Red Digital Cinema. I have some thoughts. Um, I think this all really needs to be addressed in the context of Red being patent trolls. Like they make great cameras. As a colorist, I love working with Red footage, especially Red Raw, R3D, all that kind of stuff. Just because it has its own thing. It has its own look. It looks fantastic. It's fun to grade. It's usually pretty easy to color grade. Yeah. But what they did was when they patented their compressed raw in camera, they made it so that nobody else could do it. Somehow Blackmagic was able to kind of like squeak by and have a different kind of, like, it's not as compressed, or it's a different kind of compression, so it doesn't violate the patent. But Red's been really good about, considering it's a teeny tiny company, suing Sony for patent infringement. I believe they sued Apple ProRes for patent infringement. I think that's why ProRes RAW took so long to come out. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. And a bunch of other DJI. The Ronin 4D was supposed to have RAW, but again, Red blocked that because it had in-body compressed RAW. And the reason you need compressed RAW is because regular RAW, uncompressed RAW, is gigantic files, and compressed RAW makes it about the size of like a ProRes file, which is still a big file, but not impossible. And this is all to say, yeah, this little tiny company that figured out that the cinema world wanted compressed RAW as a thing, and patented something they probably shouldn't have been legally able to patent, in my opinion, and in other opinions. Whereas like, I don't know, and it kind of harkens back to Edison. It always bugs me when people talk about how Thomas Edison was the father of Hollywood, or the father of filmmaking. He wasn't. He was a patent troll, and he saw that people really liked what would ultimately become motion picture film and motion picture projection, and he patented them in the United States, so that if you wanted to make films, ultimately what it would become, that you were just sort of in like I forget what it's called, like a Nickelodeon or something, where you're looking down into the box and you pay a dime or a coin. He patented all that stuff to make sure that nobody else would be able to use the technology. And so a bunch of those filmmakers that were in Philadelphia and Boston and the rest of New England got as far away from him as they physically could by moving to Southern California, therefore trying to avoid his basically patent trolling. That's how Hollywood started. So Hollywood started despite Thomas Edison. The same behavior I really attribute to Red. You can't fault the design, you can't fault the technology, but you can fault their behavior. Yeah. So it's always weird. So Nikon comes out with, cinema type cameras. Nikon being a camera company that has been like the last bastion of not making cinema stuff. They're, photographers love them. Wedding photographers love shooting Nikon, but they just don't do a good job with cinema stuff, and they never have. And unless something's changed, their video autofocus is a disaster, especially compared to Sony and the Canon. Anyway, so Nikon has compressed RAW in one of their cameras, inevitably gets sued by Red, just like always, except this time the settlement was Nikon was able to use compressed RAW on some of their cameras. For the good of the culture, for the good of technology, for the good of filmmaking, that would have been a great opportunity, or that may have been a great opportunity, because now Sony can come back, Canon can come back, RE can come back, Panasonic, all these others can come back and say, hey, let's put this through the American justice system and try to figure out how we can make compressed RAW a thing, because it is that awesome. Because right now it's still just Red, Blackmagic, and then maybe Nikon if they feel like it. And then a couple months goes by and we're here, and Nikon has decided to buy Red. Now, I feel like the optimistic thing about this is it's a huge camera company with a lot of history, and they make incredible lenses and they make great stills cameras. Again, I don't know about their autofocus, and they just don't make cinema cameras. But now all of a sudden they have basically, top two or top three cinema camera companies under them. This will give Red an opportunity to expand, maybe, push out more cameras, push out more technology, keep advancing the market, but also making the cameras cheaper, because, their most successful camera to date has been the Red Komodo, and it's because it's so cheap. But here's where the optimism ends. Here's the pessimistic argument of that. Nikon did the thing that every camera company has been trying to do for the last 10 years, which is get underneath Red's patent trolling. Because, again, it's my opinion and it's many people's opinion, they should never have been able to patent the idea of compressed raw in a camera. That's insane. That's like patenting the wheel. That's so crazy. And the fact that it keeps holding up is also crazy. Is Nikon just going to be Red now? Does Nikon, because they were able to somehow get around Red's patent and scoop it, instead of making now that technology available to everyone the way it probably rightfully should have been from the start, maybe now Nikon owns the patent and is just going to be Red and patent troll everybody. So maybe instead of Red constantly, suing everybody for infringing on compressed raw patents and technology, maybe Nikon is the one doing that. I don't see why they wouldn't do that, just because Nikon seems like woefully behind in cinema stuff. And if they're trying to do an earnest venture or even the dishonest venture into cinema stuff, why wouldn't they? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird because I like Red cameras. I don't like how much they cost, and I don't like the fact that everything is proprietary, and I loathe the fact that they're patent trolls about everything. It's gross. Nikon doesn't seem to have nearly that reputation, although, camera companies competing with camera companies, you could be arguing that they're all trolling each other and they're all trying to undermine each other constantly. I don't know. It's not like Sony bought Red. It's not like Panasonic bought Red. It's not like Canon bought Red. These are established companies that have, like a good relationship with filmmakers, a good relationship with making new filmmaking tools, specifically cameras, specifically lenses. And Nikon doesn't have any of that, so I just don't see how they're not going to do this in bad faith and just sit on the patents the way, Red has for their entire existence. So, I don't know. Takeaways. Yeah, the Red cameras will probably be more available and cheaper. I don't see how that's not going to happen, especially if Nikon is smart and leaves Red to be Red and not just make everything, a Nikon body that says Red on the front. I don't see how they wouldn't keep Red's brand, because it's like Porsche. You don't, just because Volkswagen owns Porsche doesn't mean you get rid of Porsche. I just don't see how they're not going to just be dicks about the whole patent thing, which was the whole problem with Red to begin with. Yeah, so maybe all the Red cameras going forward will have, regular memory cards. They're kind of doing that anyway, so maybe that's not going to be a credit to Nikon, but I don't know. I don't think it's good news that Nikon bought Red at all. I think the best situation for filmmakers would be for Red to struggle so much that they have to give up the patent, or they have to license their patent to other companies to allow for RAW because of pressure, because of the fact that they can't survive otherwise. Because right now all they do is they charge too much, and I don't need to get into it. The point is, yeah, I'm not excited about Nikon absorbing Red, but I'm also not upset. I'm just annoyed, and maybe Nikon will do the right thing, and the technology will be free to who wants it or licensable to who wants it. But let's be honest, Nikon paid a lot of money for a company that they basically beat, and there's something very weird going on there. So, yeah, I don't know. That's what I think. Do you guys even care? Like, share, subscribe. Catch you on the next one.